Do you have a vision? Do you have a dream for your church or ministry? Do you see a picture of what could be done through your ministry? If you clearly see that vision or dream, but you're struggling with a directional plan, how do I take everything that I've got at my disposal? How do I create direction? How do I create targets? How do I put that plan into action? How do I get people involved? How do I get everyone in the ministry, everybody involved in our church, pulling in the same direction? If those are things that you're struggling with today, stay with us.
In today's world, success is measured in many ways. Regardless of your definition of success, you need one important ingredient to achieve that goal: a plan. In the next hour, Dr. Henry Migliore, an internationally recognized author, educator, organizational specialist, and motivational speaker, will take you step by step through a systematic philosophy entitled Strategic Long-Range Planning. This concept is designed to help you achieve your success by a goal-oriented planning system. In more than 30 years of experience, Dr. Migliore has been successful in applying this management philosophy in both large corporate environments and small business enterprises, universities, churches, ministries, as well as personal family life worldwide. Today's topic: strategic long-range planning for churches and ministries. And now, Dr. Henry Migliore.
Now, let's first of all think about the vision and dream. I think everything starts with your purpose statement. And I cover that early in the book. What's your purpose, your mission, your reason for being? Are you trying to be an international, national, regional, or local ministry? You've got to go through and determine what that vision and dream happens to be. Now, let me share with you, as we go through each of these steps, how you can put that plan together, and I'm going to use a number of examples. First of all, it takes time and effort. Don't think for 1 minute that you're going to be able to put together a strategic plan either overnight or over the weekend and have it a well-thought-out document in writing and have everybody behind it. It takes a lot of time. At Victory Christian here in Tulsa, it took almost a year of constant meetings, sometimes weekly, a minimum of every 2 weeks. It took that long to put the plan together. First Methodist of Tulsa, we've been working on that plan for 6 months. So it takes time, it takes a commitment. Now I want to take and show you a procedure that I think will help you. It's been successful in the past. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. One of the things you can do is take your pastors, take your executive team away on a retreat. A 2 or 3 day retreat away from town in a setting where people can become energized. They're not bothered by phone calls, the things that we get involved in day-to-day living. You need to have your team rested and able to think. That's what we did with Billy Joe Daugherty at Victory Christian. We went away on an initial 3-day retreat and went through each of the steps in the planning process. Now, another procedure, and this works fine also, is you can set up a series of meetings. Back at First Methodist, quite a number of years ago, under the direction of the late Dr. Thomas, we met for breakfast meetings for about 3 months in a row, getting together the plan. So let me take each step now, and let's talk about how you can do this. Okay, your purpose, your vision, your mission statement. How do you do that? All right, let's take a retreat setting. Here's what you might do. You've given an assignment to each of your associate pastors, everybody that's going to be in the meeting, to first of all have read the first 2 chapters in my book on strategic planning and management for churches and ministries. You want everybody familiar with the concept of strategic planning before the meeting starts. Okay, you ask each person then to write out on a sheet of paper the vision or dream or mission they see for the church. Now, let's say you've got a senior pastor and maybe 12 to 15 associate pastors, business managers, and members of the board in that initial meeting. Now, think about it. Each person now has brought one sheet of paper to that meeting. They've had a chance to prayerfully think through the vision they see, and that's important. They've thought about it themselves. Then after a bit of a discussion, your discussion leader can talk about and remind everybody what a purpose statement is supposed to be. Then you break the group up into 4 or 5 task forces. So if I've got, say, 16, I might say, let's break up in groups of 4 now and have a discussion on what's the purpose, vision, and reason for being for this church or ministry. Now, what's usually a good idea is I will rotate from table to table, and the senior pastor will move from table to table, and just let an open discussion and interchange take place among the people. Now, they're going to have to report, and they've got a scribe keeping notes. They're going to try to take their ideas, discuss them, and collectively agree on something they can present to the rest of the group. Okay, that's going to take about an hour, or if it's a breakfast meeting, you've worked your way through the entire breakfast meeting. Then you have each group report back. So each group, table 1, table 2, will stand up and say, okay, here's what we think our purpose and mission is. After each one is given its report, then the discussion leader, if I'm there leading the discussion, then we'll have an open interchange. Now, you'll never reach agreement in the first meeting or the first round, but it's important that you get a good interchange of ideas. Get everybody involved in thinking through what is it that we're trying to accomplish. Okay, now, once you've finished that step, then you gather up all those individual sheets. You gather up whatever notes the scribe took, and you put those in a little folder and you just set it aside. Now you go on into what I call the second step, which is environmental analysis. Now, in the environmental analysis stage, what you're trying to do now is look into what's going on both worldwide, nationally, regionally, and locally. What are statistics? You need information. Environmental analysis is like your daily planning. When each of us get up in the morning, I look outside. What's the weather going to be today? Part of my plan is dictated on how the weather is. If I hear a weather forecast that says potential rain, sleet, or blizzard, then I'm going to organize my day a little differently than a very nice day. And that's the same thing we have to do with our church or ministry. We've got to gather facts. We've got to know what's going on. We've got to know what's going on in America in terms of national statistics. What's the unemployment rate, say, in our particular town? Another thing that we've learned to do is do a congregational survey. That's a very important part of the environmental analysis process. We've developed a questionnaire, and a copy of the questionnaire is in the book, The Use of Strategic Planning in Churches and Ministries. We've got a computer program that will back that up and analyze it. And what you literally do is give the questionnaire to your congregation. We did that at Victory Christian. We did it at First United Methodist, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And what you're trying to do is gather a profile of information about the needs of the people in your own congregation. And this is what we're talking about in the area of environmental analysis. Okay, back to our retreat setting now. How do we gather this information? Okay, again, your discussion leader will talk about and give examples of environmental analysis. Each person will have read the chapter in the information on environmental analysis, and you'll go right back then and put them right back into their little subcommittees and say, okay, what do you think the 10 to 20 most important factors affecting this church might be? What statistics do you think are important to this church? Now, again, they'll spend another hour, or if you're using the method of a breakfast or luncheon meeting, then they've had a week to work on it. They've read the chapter. They've looked at the environmental conditions in that area, and they've come up with their own list. It's important that everybody does their homework. I'm the minister of music. I've looked at that. I've come up with my list. I've come to the breakfast meeting. When I sit down with my little subcommittee and start a discussion, I've already thought about what's important. Again, another discussion takes place. What are the key environmental factors that are important, say, to this church and ministry? Okay, then each subcommittee gives a report. There's another open discussion. At Calvary Temple in Tampa, one very important environmental factor was the expressway system and where Calvary is located in relation to the proposed expressway system. Another very important statistic for Calvary is the economic growth in that area, the changes in land values. Dale Brooks and his staff have done an excellent job of assessing what's going on in the Tampa area. And right now they've got a very aggressive program taking place that's paying off because they took the time to determine, well, what's going to happen, what's going on in this area, and right now their smart thinking is paying off for them. Now, what you've done now is you've gotten through your second step. So you gather up the information. Each person has the sheet of paper. You take the summary from the scribes. You take another little folder, stick the papers in there, set it aside. Okay, what do you do next? Well, next, after you've looked at environmental analysis, now you want to assess the strengths and weaknesses. What kind of strengths and weaknesses do we have going for us in this church or ministry? I had the opportunity to be an athlete both in high school and college, and this is a principle that I learned from my coaches and from being in athletics. Every coach in America knows how to assess the strengths and weaknesses of not only his team, but his opponents. And as I went through my organizational life, I realized that no coach in America goes into a game and doesn't have a game plan without analyzing the strengths and weaknesses. So I thought, well, this has got to be important. And I've woven those concepts both in my strategic planning book that I use for industrial people. I've also woven the idea into the use of strategic planning for churches and ministries. How do we assess where we stand? You've got to know your strengths and weaknesses, just like the coach, before you develop your game plan. Okay, again now, you'll notice the same procedure just continues to roll right along. If you're on your 3-day retreat, by now you're probably in the afternoon of the first day. Each person has read the section of the book that says, here's how you determine the strengths and weaknesses. There's examples from different churches and ministries woven right there in the book. Most of the people I've worked with the last 5 years have let me use examples straight from their ministry right there in the book to help you. You can see an example of items straight from their specific plan. And I'm thankful that these others have shared this information because the key for me and the key for them is to help you. We want to help you succeed. Now, what you're trying to do now is assess the strengths and weaknesses in terms of your human resources, your people, your physical plant, your building, your automobiles, the very important financial area. You've got to get a good picture of where you stand before you can put your plan together. So again now, you're breaking your groups right back out. They've listed what they think the strengths and weaknesses happen to be. They will discuss it again, taking perhaps up to an hour or most of your lunchtime, discussing what that might happen to be, and then you recap again. Now again,